Welcome to the Pin Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pin Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
Hello, and welcome to the Pin Leader Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Beyond the Forecast, and I am so glad to have with me Mr. Jay Berschback, who is the Chief Meteorologist at 13 ABC in Toledo, Ohio. He has earned his television seal of approval from both the American Meteorological Society and the National Weather Association. He is also an active member in both organizations. He is a graduate of the University of Michigan's College of Engineering, receiving a bachelor's degree in atmospheric, oceanic, and space sciences. He has worked as a weather anchor at WLNS TV in Lansing, Michigan, and has worked in a private weather forecasting company called Commercial Weather Services. Without further ado, hello, Jay.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so
Great.
glad you're here and joining with me.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. So I'm going to get right into this. And can you share the story of how you became interested in meteorology?
Sure, I think it goes back to a day in fourth grade. I was home for lunch from school. I lived very close to the school, and back then, almost a lot of schools allowed you to go home off campus for lunch. So I was at home eating a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. I remember the day vividly. Ate my meal. For dessert, got a Klondike bar, which is a square of ice cream covered in chocolate.
Mm.
So I'm there watching TV, probably The Price is Right or something that was on at noon back in the day when there were only 3 or 4 TV stations. And there was a big thunderstorm outside. So watching TV, this is back before cable television, and most houses had a big antenna on top of the house to receive the TV signals. Lightning struck the antenna.
Oh,
The electricity went into the TV and it blew up right in front of me. Imagine me as a fourth grader with a Klondike bar in my hand, watching TV. It blows up, froze, was in shock. My mom screaming in the kitchen, and turned out okay. I was okay. My mom was okay. The TV was destroyed. The house was okay. But rather than go to school for the afternoon, my mom took me to the library. And we started studying why that happened, about lightning and hail and tornadoes and hurricanes and clouds and the water cycle. And something that used to scare me so much got me into meteorology. As a little tongue-in-cheek, it sparked my interest in meteorology.
I feel like I need a drum. Like, that was pretty good.
Yeah. So that I mean, and I've always liked airplanes and looking at the weather, but again, it was almost the fear of those nighttime thunderstorms, because knowledge is power. The more you learned about it, you're inside, you're relatively safe. Just began to respect it and want to learn more about it, and now I forecast it.
Here you are. And as a
Yeah.
leader in your field too, which is, there makes a difference. I think that when you're interested in something and then you actually decide, I'm going to pursue this as a lifelong career, and now you're a leader, can you give an example of a time when your leadership made a critical difference in the coverage, especially with decision making?
Sure, decision making, it's live television, and we are on the fly. We are working during commercials, we're working weekends, working nights. So if I had to pick an example or two, it would be during those severe weather events when things are changing quickly, information needs to be passed along immediately, decisions on what to pass along, what's the most crucial information for what area, for what cell, for what storm, is it rotating, is it hail, is it wind? And we nowadays stream as well as broadcast. And I think it was a couple years ago, Point Place had a quick spin up tornado, which we weren't really expecting that day. We were tracking a system up in Monroe, and that day I chose to break into the newscast. So we stopped broadcasting the news. I said, we got to take over with weather. There's a possible rotation up near the Fermi 2 power plant, which would be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, I kind of sent a couple of our staff over to the streaming center to start streaming. So we had 2 ways to get the information out. And as we were covering that, a more powerful tornado popped up over Point Place, Ohio, which is right near the end of Lake Erie, the Maumee Bay. Did a lot of damage, was on land. It went over the lake, back on land. Thankfully, nobody was severely hurt, no fatalities. But it's one that kind of caught us off guard. But because we saw something developing, just to kind of put people in the right place to be successful that night, we did the best we could once we realized that things were getting a bit dangerous.
Well, so many
Yeah.
people are watching, and their lives, their livelihoods, of course, with their
Mhm.
businesses, but their lives are really dependent on what you tell them next.
Correct. There are many sources for weather, we realize that. But one of the things we try to do is stay consistent and also honest when we're not so accurate.
Hmm.
Things change almost every day, whether it's a little change or a big change in the forecast. And we just explain the wind shifted or the clouds moved in that prevented the storms from flaring up that day. So you get a little bit of knowledge in the explanation, but also hopefully that gains trust with the viewer that we're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes and oh, we made all that mistake. We're just going to move on and say
Hmm.
nothing happened. We
Hmm.
realize people changed plans or made plans based upon our forecast, and we do our best to correct errors when we see them, explain why, and then move forward.
That goes into my next question is the ways you lead,
Mhm.
especially when there's uncertainty in the forecast. How do you go about that? And especially because you're leading a team.
Sure. Two words I can think of: consistency and then trying to explain it to people like I mentioned. So more than two words. But so if we are not so certain, especially in those longer term forecasts, the 7-day forecast or 10-day forecast, we might one day say, you know what, we're looking at next week. There's not a lot of confidence on this weather pattern. Things are kind of changing. Our computer models are showing different scenarios. So, to be transparent, I guess that'd be a good second word: consistent and transparent on what we are seeing with our data. So, when you're watching for that 2 or 3 minutes, all the work we've done to lead up to that, you get an honest forecast that we truly update all day and all night.
Hmm. Well, what
Yeah.
does that look like with a leadership team? You've got
Mm.
a whole team of individuals. It used to be, I remember watching, and would be just one meteorologist, but you have a team and making it even more effective. What does that look like for you?
Correct. So the team works together. We are texting, emailing, FaceTiming each other day, night, from work. Things we're looking at with new information, things changing, things that are going as planned. Scheduling, like today, we had a quite a last minute schedule change, so we're all scrambling to fill in for our teammate, and just it's communication between the team. That's one of the biggest things, is that open communication. If you see something when it comes to information, tell us. I know that sounds like a safety thing, but when it comes to the information with all these sources of computer modeling and weather data and satellites and radars, weather balloons, if we can as a team think of a forecast and have 5 different meteorologists making a forecast, in theory, that should be more accurate than just one of us making an individual forecast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you too, is there's got to be a time when maybe somebody on the team did not agree with maybe another teammate. And how do you really work that out, especially when you have to go on air? Millions of people are watching you and they're holding on to what you tell them next. How do you manage that?
You manage it with you listen, you're open to ideas and new ways to look at something, whether it's a radar screen or a satellite picture or a computer model, and you take that into account. Maybe it's something that the other four of us are missing, and we say, you know what? Wow, I don't know how I didn't see that. You caught that one thing that we didn't see, and that makes a big difference in our forecast for the whole team. So you take it into account. We discuss what that one person might be seeing, and then you reassess your own forecast and see what that new idea is. And this is something we do with things we call here in Toledo. They're called 13 first alert weather days. Those are days that are most impactful for people, whether it's severe weather, snow, ice, wind, heat, cold. And we literally take votes like we're a jury on if we need to issue a first alert weather day for a certain
Mm.
time frame. So we will say, okay, here's what I'm seeing for Tuesday. I'm seeing the chance of severe weather in the afternoon, some large hail. Perhaps somebody else on the team says, I'm not seeing quite that intense pattern, but we'll be watching. So if we have 4 yes votes and 1 no vote, which would be the scenario you brought up, no first alert day is issued. It
Mm-hmm.
takes 5 votes to make that happen. It's almost I imagine us in like NASA launching a rocket ship or
Okay.
one of the newer companies, right? You need, rockets go, fuel go, weather go, this a go. You need all those thumbs up to launch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea with day-to-day forecasting for us, as well as these first alert weather days.
Well, I've got to ask you this question because I've seen the movies. You see movies like Twister and Twisters that's been out, and you see meteorologists trying their best to get it right. And then they rely on folks out in the field that are reporting back. How do you balance that, especially when it has to do with like there may be something that comes across that's very sensational that may be what's going on, but how do you balance when it's not part of your immediate team?
It is crucial data. There is some misinformation out there, but social media, texting, Facebook Messenger, emails, phone calls, all those sources of data can really help. Now, we do have the trained weather spotters that go out during severe weather and snow events. But for instance, that Point Place event that really happened quickly, it went from nothing to a very intense situation quickly. We got phone calls, we got reports, hey, there could be wind damage in the Point Place area. We're thinking, okay. And almost simultaneously, we were looking at the radar saying, that does not look good. I see rotation over Point Place. So to have the ground truth that we're getting reports of wind damage where we're seeing a possible tornado on the radar, that helped us push forward and cover that storm.
It sounds like it is a critical part of it. It's like an invisible team member that's sitting at the table when you're bringing all that information in.
Correct. And so many eyeballs out there and videos. People will send us a quick video of we call it a scary looking cloud,
Mm.
an SLC. And so you got to determine, is that a severe storm? Is it a shelf cloud, a wall cloud, a funnel cloud? So from that real time video that takes just seconds to get to us, we can compare that to what we're seeing on our end and then make a determination if that deserves coverage or if we can write back and say, that's fine. That's just a scary cloud. And we can report on the air, hey folks, we're getting reports from blank town that there's a really scary cloud in the sky. Right now we're okay. And
Hmm.
that way folks that are also seeing that scary cloud think, okay, I saw that and I was wondering about that. So a two-way communication path is very important.
Now, you're talking about tools. We're talking about having eyes on what's going on. How has forecasted changed over the course of your career, due to technology? And I'm curious too on how AI might be playing a part in this.
It has changed drastically. Like anything else in our lives, I began my career back in the mid to late 90s. And back then we had rudimentary display systems for television. The radar system was okay. Doppler radar was coming out. Was one of the newer technologies. Satellite pictures were a bit blurry. The biggest change, and this will lead into the AI, is the computer modeling that we can
Mm.
do. If you imagine the computers we had back in the early 90s, mid 90s versus what we have now, think of your cell phone, think of your iPhone, think of your iPad, think of your Android. The power in that handheld device compared to what a supercomputer was back in the early 90s, we've come so far. The faster we can compute those calculations, the more accurate we can be. We do things now called ensembling forecasts.
Mm.
And that's when we run a computer model, not once, but twice, three times, four times, 50 times, 100 times. And you take the average of all those results to give us a forecast. So if one of those times it ran, the computer model, it picked up an error, you can throw that one out. It almost reduces the error by doing the simulation over and over and over and over. So, and that's where AI is coming in. AI can look at that and even more intense calculations and pick out the error, perhaps faster than the human eye or the brain can. I mean, I've got training in all the calculus and physics of the atmosphere, but an AI system that can do that in a split second might take me a few minutes or longer to get that process down and then move to the next step in the forecasting process. With the help of AI would be very important. So we are using that. It's coming into play when it comes to computer modeling and looking at radar screens. Much like the medical field, I believe they're looking at X-ray scans or CAT scans or MRIs. With the help of AI, it kind of guides you to what you need to look at. It
Hmm.
reduces the time. Yeah.
Well, for my leaders out there that are questioning if they should adopt AI at their workplaces, 'cause depending on what industry they're in, they might be struggling with what it might look like or if it's going to
Mhm.
replace staff. You have emphasized something that I've said numerous occasions. The most effective leaders that I'm finding right now, the strongest leaders, are incorporating it in as part of almost like another team member and not totally relying on it, but understanding the human element because it sounds like you're incorporating both your human element as well as the technology that you have.
Correct. And like that's a great analogy. Another team member, which could be the one that says, I don't see what you're all seeing, and we look at it again. Or it could be the one that picks up the one thing we're missing and we all change our ideas and go with that idea. AI, as you know, is a great tool, but like any tool we have, whether it be radar, computers, satellites, they can sometimes one break and sometimes be wrong.
Hmm.
So that's where AI is. I think on this date and time, if you've ever seen those memes where AI goes off course and just, calculates some crazy result on a question you have, that's where we are now. But someday as it becomes more reliable, that's when we have to maybe make it a more important part of the team.
Hmm. Agreed, agreed. Or if it's hallucinating, I did that. It's just making something that's not even close to being true, and it's
Yeah,
pulling. I try to encourage that building some type of level of relationship with AI so that you're not fearful of it. Or if you've got team members who don't see the value in it or don't understand it, now's the time to start engaging with them and really talking about how it can be efficient and part of the team. But I agree with you. Over time, hopefully it'll get better, and some of those key components that you need and rely on, they'll get more accurate too.
I agree. Yes. So that's the hope going forward.
Well, I'm going to ask you, you had some great stories talking about your experiences. And I was going to ask you, what was one of your most memorable stories of, being in this role as a leader?
Oh, that's a tough question. As a leader, I just think I've been here now for almost 27 years, which in the TV business nowadays is not a common thing.
Mm.
To stay at one television station for more than a quarter century. To see the new talent coming through, whether it be reporters, anchors, sports, meteorologists, and to see them grow. And a few have stayed in town in our station, but others have moved on to bigger cities or bigger markets or a different market, different part of the country, or even left the business and chose a different career. Just to see the evolution here of the younger generation coming through, growing up, getting experience, learning, honing their skills, and then doing what they want with their life, moving on or staying. They're making the choice. For instance, we have a brand new employee that started this week, and just to hopefully let them know what our field is like, hopefully teach them the ways that we have learned and new ways to learn things from them as they come in as the younger generation. There are things that they know and use every day that maybe I don't know so well or don't know at all.
Hmm.
So to get that new blood, that new generation in to re-energize at least our station, and if they stay for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, great. If they stay for 25, 30 years, that's great too. But just to see that cycle of new employees becoming or coming into their own and then going from there. So that's what I've seen over the last 25, 27 years as a leader.
Excellent. Well, here's the fun question.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're reading meteorological charts or if what you're watching, but what do you read and what do you watch?
Don't read too often, but what I do is I have nonfiction books. I don't read much fiction at all. So books on how do things work and why do things work and the physics behind a bicycle or just a trivia question kind of books or the stumpers like those calendars that you get. That have books like that where it's a daily Mensa question or something like that. Not a member of Mensa, but
Sounds
the
like you should
brain
be.
teaser. No, not at that level, but those brain teaser type of things that make you think and make you use your brain outside the box. Those are the things I'm reading. And the shows, I guess, are similar. Shows I watch are things like sports. I love sports, all sports. I'm a Detroit fan. I grew up in Detroit, so Tigers, Lions, Red Wings, Pistons. Went to Michigan, so college football, that's a big draw for me as well. And then when it comes to like streaming or shows, documentaries. Most recent one I watched was a documentary about the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm.
It was an hour and a half special on Netflix. And one, it was really cool. There was an air show here in Toledo a couple weeks ago, and the Thunderbirds were here. I got to fly with them back in 2016 in an F-16. So it's a very personal story for me. But it was an hour and a half special and all about their training and their families, how it impacts their lives and their kids and their wives and their parents and where they have to move and the amount of hours. And
Wow.
so just a really, I didn't think it would be that emotional, But that one really touched me. So if you folks are looking for a good streaming show, I think it's called, it's just search for U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. It'll pop up. So shows like that, mainly sports or some documentary about science or airplanes or something like that.
Well, excellent. I will definitely. I love nonfiction, and I also love a good story, especially when it comes from true life background. So
Yeah.
thank you for that recommendation. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. Thank you, Jay.
You're very welcome. It was great talking to you, and hopefully the people out there listening had a little entertainment as well as some good knowledge, at least one person's view of a day in the life, of being a meteorologist on TV.
Oh, I know they did. And for those who are listening in the U.S. or across the world, I know that they probably appreciate their weather person as well. So that's excellent. So
That's great. Yeah, I know I can speak for myself, but I think that just about all of us, we're doing the best we can. And I know the joke is you know, I wish I could have a job where I could be wrong every day. We hear that a lot, tongue in cheek from viewers.
yes,
And we realize it's tongue in cheek, but it is predicting the future. And it is a very challenging, rewarding, and it's a fun job too at times.
excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. And I know I appreciate you, and I know there's a number of people that do. As we determine our day as we walk out the door to figure out what's going to happen next. So thank you.
Great. You betcha. You're very welcome.
Excellent. And thank you to our sponsor, Realtor Shannon Roof of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Kohler Realty, educating clients so they can feel confident in their decisions and at the closing table. Thank you for your sponsorship. Thank you to our listeners who are sharing and again commenting on the show. We really appreciate you. And don't forget to pick up your copy of the #1 HR Personnel Management new release on Amazon, The Pin Leader Path: Identify, Engage, and Develop Effective Human and AI Leadership for Your Organizational Culture. You can find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and wherever books are sold. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates LTD, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.